RACES is a community-based rape crisis center serving Champaign, Douglas, Ford, and Piatt counties. We offer confidential crisis intervention and counseling services to anyone who has been affected by sexual violence. We also offer public education and training to schools, employers, and other organizations throughout our 4-county service area. In 2015, RACES served more than 37,000 individuals, ranging in age from 3 years to adult. Over the past year, RACES is one of the many social service organizations that has suffered due to the Illinois state budget impasse. The inconsistency of state finances forced us to reduce our staff and services, and since June 1st of last year, we have offered only crisis intervention through a 24-hour hotline and medical advocacy. This 24-hour crisis intervention hotline has functioned continuously in our community for 4 decades. We are grateful to the United Way, to community organizations and local donors, as well as the dedication of our volunteers, medical advocates, and our interim assistant director, Jaya Colasetti, for helping RACES maintain this vital resource. Without overwhelming community support, RACES would have been forced to close its door. Today, I am thrilled to announce that RACES is beginning the process of rebuilding our agency so that we can restore all of our core services to the communities that we serve, including free counseling, public education and training, and legal advocacy. These efforts will begin under the leadership of our new executive director, Adelaide Aime. We are excited to have Adelaide at the helm of these rebuilding efforts because she has a long commitment to social service work and to supporting survivors of sexual assault. Adelaide began as a rape crisis volunteer in 1984, and she began her career in social services in 1986. Adelaide is probably familiar to many in the community because most recently she worked as the executive director at the Children's Advocacy Center of Champaign County. Her past experience includes working with survivors of sexual assault, people experiencing severe mental illnesses, and children who have experienced abuse. We're looking forward to Adelaide bringing this expertise to rebuilding and reshaping RACES to best fill the needs of our community. Again, I'd like to introduce Adelaide so that she can tell you a little bit about how we plan to rebuild the agency that you have supported so faithfully in the last months. Adelaide, thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Is this still? Thank you all for coming and for helping us to get out our important message, which is that RACES is still here. We are here for survivors of sexual violence, and we promise to listen, believe, and support them as they begin to heal. Part of doing that, as Laura mentioned, is increasing our services so we have the full array again. And the board and I are going to be working to strategically and thoughtfully rebuild so that we will have a strong, stable, and sustainable organization. Other than that, someone asked me about specifics. Right now, I don't even know where the paper clips are stored, so some of the specifics will be coming over the next few months. And that's pretty much it. We're pleased to take questions.
Adelaide, do you think it might be possible to restore even some of the programs you've been forced to drop or cut back without a return of state funding?
Definitely.
How do you do that?
Well, there's our agency and others like it have an array of funding, so there's from different sources. So there are federal sources, there are local sources, and dollars from individuals and businesses. So we'll be using those and fitting it together. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. You move the pieces around. But we will definitely do that. Right now we have an open position for a counselor, and we'll be interviewing people for that. So that'll be the next service that gets restored once we find a good candidate.
That's a position you can fund now?
Correct.
Is that a position you lost because of funding, or did you just lose a person in that position?
That's a position that we did lose because of lack of funding.
So how are you able to fund it now?
Like Adelaide mentioned, we're able to fund that through primarily federal funding, as well as local organizations and donations that we have acquired in the last few months.
Can either of you talk a little more about, what it's been like having to work under these conditions, and as far as the people that you work with through the hotline, what you're able to do or not able to do because of the cutbacks that have been forced on you?
We've had a very difficult few months because of the cutbacks, largely because we haven't been able to provide services. And for races, it's devastating to have to tell survivors that we don't currently have free counseling to offer them, or we don't currently have legal advocacy. We can't be with them as they go to court. So the past few months have been difficult for that reason. However, we have a large array of volunteers, and we have very dedicated staff that have helped us during this time and kept the hotline running. We also have 2 paid part-time medical advocates who are helping to provide these services.
Adelaide, maybe you could talk a little about the vision you have about the organization and what it could become in the next year or a few years.
Well, when stepping into an organization with such a long and rich history, as Laura mentioned, 4 decades of working with survivors, I think my vision is to bring us back to the best of where races was. And then also look for opportunities. Every crisis brings opportunities for change, and we can see if there may be improvements we can make because everything got jumbled up.
Mm-hmm. At one point, you were down to 1 person who was on staff. So at this time, you guys now have those 2 part-time medical advocates in Adelaide. Is that
And Jaya.
And Jaya Colasetti, yes.
So at this time, you guys have now 4 people.
Yeah.
We do.
Growing slowly but surely.
Right.
Do you guys think that you'll have to change the way you guys move forward because of how things continue to go with the state?
Certainly. Every social service agency in Illinois is changing the way they do business. When I go to meetings, when I used to go in my position with the Children's Advocacy Center, that was the message. All the directors around the table it's a whole new world.
Is part of it, is there an assumption or a possibility that once the budget impasse ends, that simply the effort to get a balanced budget back in Illinois will mean that there's less funding available from the state?
I think we all wish we had a crystal ball to know what might happen, but I think we have to hope for the best and prepare for the worst.
Could you talk about things in terms of what the need is in the community? Has that changed or gotten bigger or smaller or just different over the years?
I know that I think you heard Laura say that I started working a rape crisis hotline myself 30 years ago, slightly more than that. And between then and now, there is such a different social atmosphere and more support. I'm not saying that it's easy for survivors to tell their stories or talk with friends and family, But in that generation, it has been a sea change. And we see in the news talking about sexual assault on campus, in the military. It's something that is even acknowledged as a problem. I mean, when I started doing my hotline work in the state where I was trained, marital rape did not exist. So if
As a legal concept.
Correct. So a husband could rape a wife, and unless there was a witness, there could not be prosecution. So we have come so far from that, and it's really so many small agencies across the country raising awareness, bit by bit, person by person, group by group, that has helped move that forward. So that's a huge change that I see. And one would hope that if the social environment is more accepting, then people will be more willing to come forward and seek justice or help or whatever they need.
I know it's been a crazy last year and a half, but we've also seen in that time, just an outpouring from the community, donations, benefits. Is there anything that you want to say to those people and, to other people in the community about what that means to you guys and how that's helped?
We are so grateful. Like I said, we were very afraid, especially beginning early last year, that Races would have to shut its doors. And considering how long this organization has been here to support survivors, that was a terrifying and devastating idea. And we would not have survived without help from the community. And there has been an outpouring of support, not only in dollars, but also just in well wishes and in volunteers for the hotline, volunteers just to help, volunteers to let us know that they do recognize that we're here, that we are trying to return, and just to support us, and that has meant the world to us. We're so grateful to the United Way. We're grateful to all of our funders. We're grateful to the organizations and the businesses in the community who really have kept us alive. So I can't say thank you enough, but yes, it has meant the world.
Still a ways to go though as you guys continue to rebuild. What is there kind of like an end goal for if you can get to a certain point you will feel fully staffed? I mean, do you have kind of a goal in mind, or is it just kind of rebuilding as you go? Or?
It's not a hard number. It's really, can we cover the services that the people need, that our clients, our survivors need? So right now, we have kind of half the services and really getting the counseling up again, getting community education so we can reach out, and prevention to try to keep this from happening to anyone.
Do you expect you'll be able to make changes within this year, 2017, as you try to restore services? Are there things that can be done in the next few months?
Absolutely. Like Adelaide mentioned, we are currently looking to hire a counselor, so we expect to have counseling services restored within the very near future. And so we do expect things to be happening right away. Like Adelaide also said, we want to rebuild in a sustainable way and in a responsible way. So we don't know exactly what that will look like yet, but we expect for many of our services to be restored very quickly. Did I say thank you and mention how grateful we are to our community who has been so supportive during this last year? They've always been supportive, but we have truly seen a wave of support that we can't thank you for enough.
I think even in my short time with the agency. I've heard a consistent message. You know, people don't like to think about what we do. We're the agency you never want to walk through our doors if it's possible, or call our number. But people recognize the need is there and how crucial this type of service is.
And could I get your name again and the spelling?
My name is Laura Shackelford.
So that's
Laura. My last name is Shackelford.
And you're the president or the chair of the board?
Yes, the president of the board of directors.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm very excited. Yes, we're here for any other questions,
Yeah.
if you have them.